Let's switch things to the UK now. Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer have both made their final pitch to voters on the eve of the election day in the United Kingdom. The polls predict annihilation for the Conservatives and the biggest majority for Labor in almost 2 centuries. How about that? Laura Jays joins us live now from London. Laura, good to see you. So, any good news at all here for Rishi Sunak?
Absolutely none, Pete, on election eve. It is really hard to find anyone positive in the Tories at the moment. Rishi Sunak putting on a brave face, as you can imagine, but a comprehensive poll on the eve of the election now from YouGov, and this is a pretty decent sample size as well, and looks at the trends over this election campaign. They are now predicting the biggest majority for a Labor government in almost 2 centuries. You'd have to go back to 1832 to find a bigger majority there. Remember at the last election in 2019, with the red wall being torn down by Boris Johnson, they thought he was going to be there for a decade. Well, a lot changes in just a couple of years in politics, and this is no different. We're talking about, historic proportions. There's just so much data here and numbers to go through that takes you to this total annihilation for the Tories. Of the 26 cabinet ministers, most of them would be wiped out. And you're talking about long-standing Tory Conservatives in safe seats that would be wiped out. What does Rishi Sunak say on the eve of an election when you're faced with this kind of data? Well, he gave it a go.
A Labour government that might have a supermajority to hike up everyone's taxes by thousands of pounds, to shift our politics to the left, to make sure we do absolutely nothing to clamp down on illegal migration, to reverse the cost-saving net zero plans that we've put in place, to tax the state pension for the first time in our country's history, and to rig the rules that they stay in power for a decade.
Rig the rules. That was a little Trumpian there, wasn't it? For Keir Starmer, he'd be looking at all this data. He keeps on being asked, are you now starting to get comfortable with the idea of being Prime Minister? Are you letting yourself believe it? Well, he's keeping a pretty straight face. He is pretty straight-laced, and that has been his persona right throughout the campaign. Pete, we've talked about him being criticised of being boring, but after the changes and the chaos in the Tory party, maybe people in the UK are just after a little bit of boring. This is what Keir Starmer had to say in his last rally to the base.
The vote and the power of the vote is yours tomorrow. And if you want change, you have to vote for it, because change only happens if you vote for it.
So, look, that's the tiny risk there that Keir Starmer was referring to, Pete, that people think this is such a foregone conclusion that they don't turn out and vote, or they use their vote in a more strategic way as a bit of a protest, and they hear that Tory message. The Tories are basically saying at the moment, it's a beg, please. They're begging people to just not leave them with the rump of a party. Give us an opposition that we can actually, take the fight to Labor, if they do get this supermajority. But look, Reform UK is still doing all right, but it's a Lib Dems that seem to be on the march here, and there's a real risk for the Tories, at least, that the Lib Dems become the bigger party and then the actual official opposition. So a lot going on here, Pete.
Yeah, no doubt. And I look forward to talking to you again next hour, Laura, to see what changes. We'll talk to you then. And do join us right here on Sky News. It's all happening tomorrow. And it is our special coverage of the UK election, where we will bring you live analysis as all the key moments unfold. Yeah, all led by Laura Jays on the ground, of course.